Henry Ford was one of the richest people of all time. At the peak of his success, his net worth was estimated to be around $200 billion in today's dollars. The extravagant wealth he possessed made him richer than all modern billionaires. Yes, you have heard it right, richer than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. In today's episode, I will not only tell you about Henry Ford, but also present various facts and data that provide a better understanding of how the car industry emerged and shaped the American culture and lifestyle. The history of Ford Motor Company starts in the early 1900s. Henry Ford was an engineer and inventor who had a vision of creating a car that was affordable for the average American consumer. After a series of both successful and failed attempts to build such a vehicle, the above-mentioned vision became a reality in 1908, with the introduction of the Model T, which quickly became the most popular car in America. To meet the demand for the Model T, Ford revolutionized the manufacturing process by introducing the assembly line. This allowed for the mass production of cars at a much lower cost than before, making them accessible to a much larger market. Thanks to Ford and other talented engineers who proved to be ingenious businessmen, the American car industry dominated the world vehicle production. There were approximately 460,000 automobiles in the United States in 1910. At the same time, the UK had only around 100,000 vehicles, while France and Germany each had about 30,000. Other nations had an even smaller number of cars, most of them purchased abroad by aristocracy. By 1910, cars had become more affordable in the US and were increasingly seen as viable mode of transportation for the average American. The introduction of the Ford Model T in 1908 contributed to the increase in the number of cars on the road, and it was the first car that was affordable for the average American consumer. The population of the United States in 1910 was approximately 92 million people. This represented an increase of about 21% from the previous census in 1900, which recorded a population of approximately 76 million. The growth in population during this period was due to several factors, including increased immigration, improvements in healthcare, and advancement in technology and transportation. The early 1900s were a time of significant change in American society, with the country undergoing a period of rapid industrialization and urbanization. This growth in population and the resulting changes in American society had a significant impact on the country's political, economic, and social landscape. Ford Model T remains the most popular car in the history of the American automobile industry. It was produced from 1908 to 1927 and was the first car that was affordable for the average American consumer. It was also the first car that was mass-produced on an assembly line, which allowed for the production of cars at a much lower cost than before. During its production run, the Model T was incredibly popular and had a significant impact on American society. It enabled people to travel more easily and explore new places, and it contributed to the growth of the American economy. By the time production ended in 1927, over 15 million Model T had been produced, making it one of the most popular cars of all time. In the years that followed, Ford continued to innovate and expand, launching new models and expanding his manufacturing operations. He also introduced other innovations, such as the $5 workday and profit sharing for his employees. $5 a day back then was considered a great wage. In today's money, it is close to $140. According to historical records, the average annual income for workers in non-farm jobs was around $750 to $900, which translates to a daily wage of about $3. Let me present to you examples of prices for common goods and services in the US in 1910. Bread, 5 cents per loaf. Milk, 8 cents per quart. Eggs, 22 cents per dozen. Beef, 20 cents per pound. Sugar, 5 cents per pound. Coffee, 15 cents per pound. Gasoline, 14 cents per gallon. Men's suits, $15 to $25. Women's dresses, $10 to $15. Thus, Henry Ford was ready to pay quite a lot, but it was not just his generosity. $5 per day proved extremely beneficial. It significantly decreased employee turnover and attracted the best mechanics in Detroit. Their expertise significantly boosted productivity. During the Second World War, Ford played a major role in producing vehicles and other equipment for the war effort. After the war, Ford continued to grow, expanding into new markets and introducing new models. Today, Ford is one of the largest car makers in the world, producing a wide range of cars, trucks, and SUVs. The company has continued to innovate and invest in new technologies, including electric vehicles and autonomous driving technology. Despite facing challenges and competition over the years, the Ford Motor Company has remained a significant player in the automobile industry, with a rich history that spans over a century. Henry Ford built factories in several locations in the US and around the world. Some of the notable locations where he built factories include Detroit, Michigan. This is where Ford's first factory was located. It was here that the first Model T was produced. Highland Park, Michigan. In 1910, Ford built a new factory in Highland Park, which was the site of the first moving assembly line. River Rouge, Michigan. The River Rouge complex was built in the 1920s and became the largest industrial complex in the world. It was here that Ford produced steel, glass, and other materials in addition to cars. Dearborn, Michigan. Ford's headquarters and a large production facility were located in Dearborn, where the Ford Rouge industry still operates today. Dagenham, England. In the 1930s, Ford built a factory in Dagenham, which became one of the largest car factories in Europe. São Paulo, Brazil. Ford established a factory in São Paulo in the 1950s, which became one of the largest car factories in South America. These are just a few of many locations where Henry Ford built factories over the course of his career, and the Ford Motor Company continues to have factories and production facilities in locations around the world today. To fully understand the success story of Ford Motor Company, let's take a look at the list of the largest car manufacturers in 2023 and in 1930. In 2023, the companies on the list are Toyota. Based in Japan, Toyota produces over 9 million vehicles a year and is currently the largest car manufacturer in the world. Volkswagen. Based in Germany, Volkswagen produces over 8 million vehicles. General Motors. The company currently produces over 6 million vehicles a year. Hyundai Kia. The company produces over 5 million vehicles. Ford. Currently, Ford produces around 4 million vehicles a year. In 1930, the list was completely different. Ford. General Motors. Chrysler. Studebaker. Packard. It is worth noting that the Great Depression, which began in 1929, had a significant impact on the automobile industry in the 1930s. Many car manufacturers struggled to survive during this period, and some smaller companies were forced to close down. However, the larger and more established companies such as Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler were able to weather the storm and continue producing cars throughout the decade. Now let's focus more on Henry Ford. Henry Ford was known to have lived a relatively modest lifestyle, despite being one of the wealthiest people in the world. He had a reputation for being thrifty and was known to be hesitant to spend money on anything that he perceived as frivolous or unnecessary. However, he did spend money on a number of things over the course of his life, including his factories. Henry Ford invested heavily in his factories, and he was known for constantly reinvesting in his business to improve production efficiency and reduce costs. He was particularly interested in developing mass production techniques that would allow him to produce cars at a lower cost. Philanthropy. Henry Ford was a generous philanthropist, and he donated large sums of money to a variety of causes over the course of his life. He established the Ford Foundation in 1936, which has since become one of the largest philanthropic organizations in the world. Personal interests. Henry Ford had a number of personal interests, including a love of nature and a passion for collecting antiques. He spent money on properties such as his estate in Dearborn, Michigan, which included a farm and a museum, as well as on his collection of historical artifacts, which he displayed at the museum. Business ventures. Henry Ford was involved in a number of business ventures outside of the car industry, including the Fordson Tractor and the Ford Airplane Company. He invested money in these ventures, but they were not as successful as his vehicle business. Henry Ford left a lasting legacy on the world, both in terms of his contributions to the automobile industry and his impact on society as a whole. Here are some of the ways in which he is remembered. Pioneering the mass production of automobiles. Henry Ford is credited with developing the assembly line production process, which made it possible to produce cars on a large scale and at a lower cost. This innovation revolutionized the automobile industry and paved the way for the mass production of other consumer goods. Making cars affordable. Ford's development of the assembly line and his commitment to producing cars at a lower cost made it possible for many people to own a car for the first time. This helped to transform American society, making it more mobile and granting new opportunities for travel and commerce. Contributing to the growth of the middle class. By making cars more affordable, Ford also contributed to the growth of the middle class in America. His high wages and benefits for his workers helped to create a new model of industrial employment that was more focused on the worker well-being. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, check out my channel to find more cool videos on history, geography and wealth, or basically how history and geography define wealth.